All right, so any of you that tried to join the one that I just started, um, I do apologize. I had technical difficulties. For some reason, it wanted to show everything upside down. Um, so I fully understand if you were a little confused. Today is what is today's date? 16th of April. It's episode 2 of Garden Gab. It's probably going to be about 5 to 10 minutes. And we're going to talk about something because we do have it is that time of year people are preparing their beds for spring. So one thing we really need to talk about is fertilizer, and there's a lot of confusion for some people as to um, the difference between organic or synthetic, which one's better. Uh, this one says it's just for roses. This one says it's for annuals and perennials. This one says it's for leaf. This says I need this for my tomatoes. So we really want to alleviate some mystery into what you need to know about choosing a fertilizer. First off, your plants don't know what the fertilizer is. It doesn't care if it's synthetic. It doesn't care if it's organic. All it cares about is food. Okay? It doesn't care about the NPK rating. We'll talk about that in a second. It doesn't care what it's made out of. All it cares about is getting food. That's it. All right. So I'm going to show you 3 different fertilizers here. And then we're going to talk about one that's going to lead to what next week's episode is about. All right. So let me have you turn around and take a look here. So we have an Eco Scraps herbs and leafy green plant food. Miracle-Gro, which everyone knows Miracle-Gro. It's been around for decades. And then the Job's Organic Annuals and Perennials. Okay? So the first thing you're going to notice on these is you're going to notice 3 numbers. And this is called your NPK rating. And what that is, that's your nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And the reason it's called an NPK rating is if you look on the periodic table of elements, N is nitrogen, P is potassium, or no, sorry, K is N is nitrogen, P is phosphorus, and K is potassium. I always get those just a little bit twisted around, as you can see. Okay, so this is your nitrogen, this is your phosphorus, this is your potassium. This depends on leaf growth, on blooms, and on root development. So when you're looking at fertilizer, you're going to see these numbers. Now, my recommendation is if you want a nice balanced fertilizer, go with something that, like this, is a 545. Looking at a 555 is where I try to stay. I would never go as high as, I know there's one company that makes a 20-20-20, and that's going to give you a lot of leaf, a lot of bloom, and a lot of root development. But there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. Okay, think of it about how you eat. Okay, if you were to sit down and eat a huge meal, okay, and we'll look at it as a 555 would be a balanced meal for you. Okay, a 20-20-20 would be for 4 people. Look at it that way. If you were to eat the food of 4 people in one setting, it wouldn't be good. Okay, you'd be getting sick, and you could, it's just not what you want to do. So you don't want to give your plants too much of a good thing. So on the back, okay, it shows in the directions that, where was I on this one? Okay, for container plants, you're looking at using 1 to 2 tablespoons for a regular 12-inch pot. Okay, 1 bag of this is use 3 cups of plant food per 50 square feet. Now consult your bag to make sure of what you're supposed to be using. Okay, putting this in a 4-foot by 4-foot square bed, okay, is going to be overkill. It's way too much to put in there. Okay, and this does say herbs and leafy green plant food. And I did use this to prep my beds for winter. And that's because when my plants get in there, I want them to have a little bit more leaf growth to grow up. My next batch is going to be focusing on blooms, and I will put that in before I plant the beds. Okay? So what we're gonna look at is it does take 4 weeks for this to break down and fertilize. So that's why I put this in the fall. And when I go to plant, I'm going to put more in. I plant my tomatoes and peppers in June 1st to June 3rd, somewhere around there. It's going to take 4 weeks for it to break down, so you're looking at around July 4th, it being ready for the plants to uptake. So, this will give you a nice, balanced, organic fertilizer for your beds. However, if you don't want to do the work of prepping your beds, you want to give them something to eat now, you have the Miracle Grow all-purpose plant food. Now, this is synthetic. This was made in a lab. And if you look at this, it says right here, your nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus rating is a 24/816. So, massive amount of leaf growth, a little bit on bloom, and a little bit more on roots. So you can use this. It's not going to poison your plant. I really hate when people call this poison, because it's not. It's a synthetic fertilizer. It is water soluble. What that means is that you take your watering can, you put a tablespoon per gallon in it, you fill it full of water. I have a 2-gallon watering can, put 2 gallons of water in, shake it up, water it, and there's enough food for the plant for a week. But remember what I said about giving it too much food. So that means that the 24 is going to produce a lot of leaves for you. It's going to produce long vines, and it's going to produce a decent amount of blooms for your peppers, your squash, your cucumbers, stuff like that. And it's going to really aid in root development. But if you want to use the synthetic and you want to feed it now, you're going to want to dilute this. So, to get down to a more balanced, you would divide this, we'll say, by 4. So that'll give you a 6-2-4. That's a lot more realistic. So you would use 1/4 of what they say. 2 tablespoons for 2 gallons. You would use half a tablespoon for 2 gallons. And you're going to give your plants plenty of the nutrients they want without giving them way too much. It's not balanced, but it's closer. Okay? And the last one we have is for annuals and perennials. Now, this is mainly for flowers. Okay? And it doesn't matter if it's an annual or perennial, you can feed it this. This, it shows you right here, is a 3-5-4. So, you're going to get some good leaf growth. You're going to get some good blooms. And you're going to get decent root development. This is organic. This does take 4 weeks to break down. It tells you right up here, if you look, soil prep. 2 tablespoons per 2-inch plant. Now this expects you to put it at the base of the plant. And it shows you how much it'll do. And this will do a... I'm trying to see if it says how many square feet it does. I can't find it. But established plants and shrubs, you put it at the drip line, and we'll talk about that much later when the season gets going and we have plants in the garden. So you have your options. Your plant doesn't care if it's the fertilizers for roses. It doesn't care if it's fertilizer for tomatoes. It doesn't care if it's fertilizer for leafy greens. All it knows is that's its food, that's in the soil, and that's what it's going to eat. One other thing I want to talk to you about, the last thing, is compost tea. And what that is, and that's next week, is we're going to talk about compost and how to make our compost and how long it takes, and try to dispel some of the myths that people have about compost tea, or compost. The compost tea is where you take a shovel full, like your basic, regular, pointed shovel roughly a couple of pounds. Sorry about that. Had a little internet issue there. So I'm using my mobile data now. So I apologize for those of you that left and come back. Compost tea, you take a shovelful. And I'm going to show you basically what size shovel, if I could find mine. You're going to take a shovel, you're going to take a 5-gallon pail, and you're going to take your garden hose. So the type of shovel I'm talking about, and I'll go get mine, is this one right here. 1 shovelful for a 5-gallon bucket. You take and put that shovelful in your 5-gallon bucket. You're going to fill it full of water, and you're going to let it set overnight. If you have to, cover it to keep out the bugs. You then take that. Poor data service today, and I do apologize. You take that, and you're going to take the water, and you're going to put it right at the base of your plants. So that's going to feed your plants. It makes it a water-soluble nutrient. Instead of waiting for the microbes to do their thing, anything water-based is going to be absorbed faster. It's going to eat it faster. It's going to, just like with you, if you have a smoothie, all the vegetables get in your system faster. You get the nutrients out of them faster. Same thing with compost tea. It is a little bit of work. You can't let it sit around too much more than 24 hours, maybe 36. And a lot of people have a really hard time watering with it. But it is an option. If you make your own compost, it's free fertilizer. So you really can't miss out with something that's free, right? So I hope you learned a lot about fertilizer. You know when someone mentions NPK rating, what to look for when you are talking about how much to give your plants and the difference between a balanced one and a synthetic, and how to get your synthetic down to a much more manageable level for your plants, that you'll be all set. So join me next Friday. We're going to be talking about compost. I'm going to actually be out at the compost bin. I'm going to show you how I fill our bins, what I use. It's a great free resource. Compost can be really expensive, especially if you're getting it, in bag form from some stores, and you need a lot of it. So making yourself, it's free. It takes very little work, and in 3 months you have a great resource. So everyone, have a good night. I'm getting ready to go in because my supper's just about ready, and I am starving. So you folks have a good night, and we'll talk to you later.